Hello, welcome to East Midlands Today with Maurice Flynn and me, Anne Davis.
Good evening. First tonight, a council at the centre of the child abuse inquiry has admitted to a systemic culture of failure. Those were the words used by bosses in Nottinghamshire when they were speaking to us ahead of a report into decades of abuse in children's homes and foster care.
Well, today they have pledged to implement any recommendations from the independent inquiry. Our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball reports.
Dark secrets hidden for decades, the homes where children were preyed on by adults who'd been paid to protect them. The independent inquiry into child sexual abuse heard horrific accounts from Nottinghamshire's care system. Now the police and councils are bracing themselves for the official report later this month.
I can't apologise enough to the survivors and their families. To think children that have been placed in council care were so neglected and abused and just not listened to. I think it's a very shameful blot on our council. It was just absolutely appalling. It's incredibly shocking that children should be locked up and abused and they have no way of escaping. And when they did run away, nobody bothered to say to them, "Why did you run away?"
And some horrific crimes were committed against children by employees of this council. Should heads roll?
I don't think there are any heads left here to roll. I think we are in a very, very different place.
Most of the abuse took place a generation ago, but now these old, large institutional homes have been replaced by smaller family units, and there are several ways for children to report their concerns.
I was shocked to my core. It's my belief there was a systemic culture of failure at all levels within Nottinghamshire County Council and the other councils involved. I can never be complacent or confident that we will not have a rogue individual, whether that's a foster carer or a member of staff. What I will assure you is that if that were to happen, we will deal with that in a very different way.
But survivors are still fighting for more support and counselling and compensation too. The county and city councils have already paid out over £3 million.
Jeremy's with us in the studio now. Jeremy, some very frank admissions from the council there today, but why are they so confident that it is better now?
Well, because the care system has been transformed really since most of this abuse took place. That culture, first of all, which meant so many victims simply couldn't complain. These days they're visited in private, away from potential abusers. They can ask to speak to someone from an independent children's charity too. They're even testing an app so children can raise concerns on their own phones. And these days they also have single bedrooms. That's important because some of the abusers were other children who shared their dormitories. And this is all coming to a head now because Professor Alexis Jay publishes her inquiry findings on the 31st of this month. In the past, of course, she's written scathing reports on child abuse in Rotherham and Rochdale. And this one isn't just looking at what went wrong, it's also looking at how widespread child abuse was and, crucially, if it was covered up when survivors started coming forward. And those findings are going to be used to make national recommendations.
OK, Jeremy, thank you.
Well, Mickey, we've just watched BBC and ITV's coverage of the inquiry. What did you think of it, first of all?
Well, I only found out yesterday that those who protected paedophiles for so long, that we've been involved in battles with to get to the truth, that they called an early press conference. They claim that it's because the selected leader of the county council, Kay Cox, apparently she's going on holiday and I don't think she wants to be there when the shit hits the fan. The bottom line is with Kay Cox, but when they did their last apology, because they're always full of apologies, she said to the reporters from ITV Central News, the first time they knew about anything of this was when Andreas Loggins was convicted and sentenced.
Wait a minute there. I obviously have been with you throughout this sort of thing, and I know they knew about it way before. We made sure they knew about it.
Well, they knew about it on January 15th, 2015. Because what did we do, Mark? We shut their council down, just like we did with the city. But let's cut to the chase on K-Cup, really, because in that news report with Phil Brewster, she said she'd been a councillor since 1989, and it was those at the top. Well, I know 3 people that's been at the top. Mick Burrows, he was an elected leader, but more importantly, Anthony May and Steve Edwards. Well, let's talk about these two, because it's Steve Edwards that told me that the only time I was in Beechwood was in 1969. Well, I always maintain I was there in August twice, and twice in December, which took me through to January. I've demanded to see the logbooks.
And?
I don't exist, but but the inquiry, different tale. Anthony May, he's now the chief executive, but he was the head of children's services with Steve Edwards. And the thing about Anthony May is that
isn't he the one that threatened to have you sorted out?
Well, he did make that threat, and when I first met him at Loxley House, when I got introduced to Alison Michalska, I actually said to him, well, you've made these threats, right, that you've got people who can sort me out. Well, I'm here now, you're here now, let's have it. He ran away and hid in the corner like cowards and paedophiles do.
Yep.
I'm not saying he's a paedophile, but I know that he's a paedophile protector.
Oh, definitely. We all know that.
The thing is, me and you went into County Hall when we traced my rapist, the former Director of Social Services, Alan Smith.
Director of Social Services for both county and city.
Yes. And he'd already been identified by Paddy Tippin, the Crime Commissioner, so we was on solid ground. Anthony May wrote out the Freedom of Information request.
Yeah, I was there.
And it come back, we neither admit nor deny.
We can neither confirm nor deny, yep.
Now, we get further down the line, and I do an interview with Russia Today.
RT, yeah.
With Issa Ali. It's on YouTube, so if you want to watch it, go to Mickey Summers RT, and you can see the whole shebang. They denied his existence, but over and above that, you see, people have come to us being me and you, Mark, and to the dirty washing protests. We had people coming to us telling us about these variety minibuses and a Nottinghamshire MP.
Ah, well, we know a lot about that.
Now, can you remember who that MP was?
I believe it was my local MP, which is Ken Clarke.
Well, lo and behold, right, when that got brought to our attention, we tried telling Superintendent Helen Chamberlain and Yvonne Dales, right, who gave evidence at the inquiry. They didn't want to listen. But we then went to see none other than Anthony May and Steve Edwards. And funny enough, we have a letter here that confirms.
I'll pop that up on screen so everyone can see it.
Right, well, you can actually show up the copy that you got.
Yeah.
Because we both had a copy.
Yeah.
Now, at the ICSA inquiry, in front of my barrister and solicitor, Rob McKinnell, who's the SIO, Senior Investigating Officer, and Chief Superintendent Rob Griffin, we've never seen that. And we've seen everything.
Well, if you think back, concerning Rob Griffin, if you think back to the meeting we had at the place near the station where I questioned him.
The Vat and Fiddle.
Yes, I questioned him about Ken Clarke, and he did a runner. Well, effectively. Why is Ken Clarke still walking free when everybody knows he's a paedophile?
I just want to try and stick to Equinox.
I thought as much.
Now, he claimed in front of the solicitors, no one's ever spoken to him about Ken Clarke. Well, your video's still up there, so we need to see how far we go forward. But we're not saying at this point anyone's guilty of anything, but the question that beggars belief is, why 2 weeks before the inquiry? Because they want to paint the picture that all their ducks are in a row.
Yeah. And as I watched the second one in particular, the RTV version, it did seem very much that they were saying that sort of thing could never happen. Now we've made sure that won't happen, and that you've got good people looking after the kids now.
Oh yeah, we've got Colin Pettigrew.
Well, yeah. What's your opinion of Colin Pettigrew?
I'm not going to put a label on him because it's a bit hard to. At the inquiry, he was full of tears. Right? He'd never been so emotionally traumatised in his life. 2 weeks later, I had a meeting with him and Steve Edwards where I challenged Steve Edwards on his lies, and there was Mr. Pettigrew. He was sticking up for his buddy. Well, we know the score. They're all in it together.
Yeah. So while he was being quizzed by the inquiries, pretended to be all wholesome and it's hot, terrible, and all that sort of thing. But when it comes back to the real world again, suddenly he's behind Steve Edwards 100%.
Yeah. But we know about the corruption as well.
Steve Edwards, what position does he hold?
He used to hold Colin Pettigrew's job, but he shifted slightly over into another department of the same thing. But you see, what happens is when you get caught hiding paedophiles, like Alison Michalska did, when she did a few naughties up in Humberside over baby F, when the shit hits the fan, and the council start to panic, they move you and they promote you as another council. And this is what's happened, you see. Anthony May was the head honcho of social services. As soon as we made the shit at the fan, he gets promoted to chief executive. But don't say it's a similarity or a coincidence, but the same thing happened at the city. But when John Boy Collins was running
the former leader.
Yeah. Well, where's he now? He's gone. We called for his resignation at the inquiry, and just before the inquiry is going to announce its findings, what does he do? He puts in his resignation. But the worst thing about it is, the one that was head of the portfolios concerning children, David Mellon.
Oh,
now, you remember when we went and seen Fat Boy Lynchage?
Yeah.
And Sue Johnson and David Trimble, and they all said it's the only, if there is a cover-up, it's the executive body.
Yes.
Well, hello Johnny boy, if you're still watching, David Trimble, David Mellon, your time is coming because you were all on the executive body. So you must have been hiding all those paedophiles, child abusers and child molesters, right? You're as guilty as what my rapist, the regional director, was, right? If you hide a paedophile, why would you want to? Well, I've been told that if I assist an offender, which is what you've done in hiding my rapist, I could be arrested and sent to jail. So,
it's aiding and abetting a criminal offence.
So this is the message for the so-called new chief constable who come up from Wales, to maybe get Rob Griffin to do his job. And those who have hit these child rapists that we have evidence on, maybe you might want to come and get them. Or if you don't, maybe you can go and join Chris Hare in Cyprus. But for Chris, Scadamalaga, and that's Cypriot for you wanker. But we ain't done yet, by long chalk. There's still the inquiry's recommendations, and hopefully they'll recommend criminal investigations.
Well, I think they're trying their best to walk away scot-free, because that's what I got from the interview on ITV. They were, it'll never happen again, we've changed personnel, we'll deal with them far more severely. And as I said, I think that's just them trying to cover their own asses and keep the jobs, basically, when all of them should be sacked.
Well, they're all talking about how good they are now, and they're supporting all the survivors. Well, Mark, you've been an ever-present, right, at the multi-agency meetings that we started. Right, trying to get these support packages, right? It's only since the inquiry announcement that they're coming back to Nottingham that in the last couple of months, right, things have started to move. The council don't want to pay for survivor support. They say it's not our problem.
It's not their problem that they allowed the rape of children in the first place, so it's not their problem to make sure that they get some sort of support.
There'll be a bit more that gets divulged over the next few weeks from at least one firm of solicitors before the inquiry's findings. I can't go into it for legal reasons at the moment, but all I can say is maybe our day will come. And to all of those who said some people are only in for the money, I haven't received a penny. I'm over 30 grand out of pocket. Do you think I can? Right. Money can't buy me happiness. It can't erase my past. But what I could do, if I got reimbursed my money, I could give myself maybe a future for the rest of my life. But for everyone who supported us, a wholehearted thank you. And all I can say in summing up is, have a nice day.
Hello, welcome to ITV News Central for the East Midlands. On tonight's programme, ashamed and embarrassed, Nottinghamshire County Council's leader apologises to those who suffered historical abuse under the council's watch.
We are so sorry. I can't apologise enough. We have spoiled your lives.
But the survivors of that abuse tell us apologies won't repair the damage already done.
They think that they can just say sorry and it's all going to go away. I can't erase my memories.
Good evening. The leader of Nottinghamshire County Council says she's ashamed and embarrassed that so many children under the authority's care suffered sexual and physical abuse. Kay Cutts was speaking 2 weeks before the findings of an inquiry into historical child abuse in the county dating back decades.
Along with the council's Director of Children's Services, Kay Cutts told our correspondent Phil Brewster that the authority can't apologise enough for ruining so many lives.
As Corporate Director for Children's Services, Colin Pettigrew faced tough questions last October over Nottinghamshire County Council's failure to protect children in its care. Now he and Council Leader Kay Cutts have given their first sit-down interview with ITV News to admit just how badly children were let down. I began by asking why the authority turned a blind eye to decades of abuse.
Children did tell you, numerous told their social workers, staff, people who visited you, and yet nothing was done. A lot of people want to know why.
I think on occasions, yeah, children did tell. Sometimes that did not get outside of the children's home. It was suppressed within the children's home. Other times those children were not believed. Yeah. And on occasions, when the reports were made to the police, there was a view that those children were not credible witnesses.
Diane Kingerby, who was a senior professional officer with the County Council back in '91, gave evidence to the inquiry where she was told that they were told not to talk about contentious issues within children's homes. One of the quotes she had was, "We were all instructed to tell social workers they should try anything to avoid their children coming into residential care, as they were more likely to be sexually abused than not." When you hear that, how does that make you feel?
That's dreadful, isn't it? Yeah. And when we heard that evidence, we had lots of evidence over the 3 weeks of October. Yeah, it was shocking.
Well, what does that say about the managerial culture that social workers felt that was their only option?
The culture was clearly wrong.
Isn't the truth of it was that the County Council was more interested in protecting its reputation than protecting children in its care?
Well, I think that was one of the lines of inquiry for the inquiry. Yeah, I don't want to pre-guess what that report might say because we haven't seen it to date. Yeah, but I think I would expect the inquiry will make comment on that.
Kay Cutts became a councillor in 1989 and for a short while was a member of the Children's Committee, but says a lot of its workings were shrouded in secrecy.
There were numerous reports over the years, both internal and external, detailing problems of abuse in children's homes and foster care. Several court cases and trials where people were subsequently convicted, national media coverage there. I mean, did you not at any point think, what is going on here? We've got to find out and stop this.
It was all dealt with very much at the top level by the director and by the senior members of the council. It wasn't, for, as I was in that at the time, a very junior member of the council and a newcomer. So it was all kept very close to their chest.
Do you think they were protecting the reputation of the council? Do you think that was what was happening?
Well, with hindsight, it seems that they were doing, yes. I'm desperately ashamed and embarrassed that this council could have behaved like that.
So far, the council has settled 208 civil claims for compensation, with 85 still pending. To date, it's paid out almost £3 million to survivors. What do you think constitutes a fair claim for someone who's perhaps had a lifetime of depression, addiction, alcoholism?
Again, in my evidence, I said that I didn't think that the compensation scheme was fit for purpose.
So what's a figure? What's a good figure? 100,000? 200,000?
I think that some of the levels of compensation that we have paid have been derisory.
So you think people should be able to revisit that?
I think the current system would not allow that to happen.
Are either of you ashamed of the way your colleagues acted, or in some cases failed to act back in the past?
I think it's a really easy question to answer. Phil, yes.
And yes.
In principle, do you agree that there should be some form of sanctions for people who fail children in their care?
I think it's very difficult for us as members to say, frankly. I think this is for another place to reconsider this, because I don't know how many people are in receipt of pensions, what their jobs are now, or, it's not for me to say.
What would you say to survivors now? What would your message be?
We are so sorry. I can't apologise enough. We have spoilt your lives.
Well, watching that report by Phil Brewster was Mickey Summers, an abuse survivor. He says the apologists won't erase the physical and mental scars he and other survivors still carry.
It resonates deeply within, for me, because they keep apologising, right? And they've apologised so many times, they think that they can just say sorry and it's all going to go away. I can't erase my memories. I still have chronic PTSD, and I still have residual nightmares of my abuse. What price can you put on that?